For decades now, I have been off-roading and overlanding in everything from Jeep Wranglers to F-150s, F-250s, Ram 1500s. If you've seen my channel at all in the past, you'll know I spent a lot of content, a lot of time on a Ram 2500 build. And one of the things that I've tried to figure out over the years is what is the best platform for vehicle adventure, vehicle-based travel, that can kind of straddle that fine line between off-roading and overlanding. And really I use the term overlanding in the sense of car camping, traveling, long distances through multiple states with everything you need to be self-sustainable, but not necessarily taking on the Rubicon Trail, although there are many areas that people would consider to get to those places to go overlanding that you have to have that type of capability. And I'm not taking any away from that or saying that that's not the case. However, there's that gray area between a dedicated off-roader with 1 tons and 40s and a dedicated overlander that can take your family out for a multi-day trip. So you may not know, because I really didn't post a lot of content. I actually had recently went back to the Jeep platform and I got a Wrangler Rubicon 392, bought and paid for. I owned it outright. And I hadn't had a Wrangler since, 2013-14 time frame. I had a 2012 JK, or 2011 JK actually. I had lifted it with a 4-inch lift. I had 37s on it, re-geared, chrome polish. I had done thousands of dollars into it and taken it, and the focus with that build was extreme off-road. Did a lot of off-roading and overlanding with it, and I broke a lot of stuff. And so once I had kids and I started kind of taking them out, the thought process changed to, well, I don't want to take the risk of, one, rolling the vehicle and doing this extreme terrain with younger kids especially, to also, I don't want to break stuff and be stranded out here with kids. And as I've gotten older, I've been searching for that perfect platform. And here's what I've found. That perfect platform does not exist. You need multiple platforms to achieve different goals. But I have found kind of a happy medium. And I know that this is something that's kind of something that's it's kind of older since it's been introduced, and there's a lot of options that people are kind of excited about. But I recently decided to go with this platform, although it does have some questionable attributes for this overlanding space. But it's plenty capable nonetheless. So what did I get rid of my super uber duper cool 392 for? Well, that would be another Jeep, but this time a 2024 Gladiator Rubicon X. Now, they don't offer the diesel option anymore. 23 was the last year they offered the diesel option. So this is the 3.2 Pentastar. Before you hop on the comments and start saying, oh, the Pentastar is garbage, Jeeps are junk, Stellantis is junk, everything. Look, I've heard all of it. I've owned them all. I've owned Fords, I've owned Chevys, I've owned Rams, I've owned Jeep, I've owned them all. I'm almost 50 years old. I went through multiple vehicles. I know the good and the bad on this vehicle platform. And I chose this vehicle platform anyway because this achieves my goals. That's one of the important things we need to remember. I'm not here to achieve your goals. I'm here to achieve my goals. So you can hop in the comments and you can say all the stuff you want to about how this engine is garbage and it doesn't make enough horsepower and torque. It's going to grenade. The camshafts and the rockers and the oil cap exploding and just all the negative naysay stuff. Hey, get down there and have fun. I'm just going to ignore it. I'm not going to respond to it because I'm already aware of it. I'm telling you that right now. So, with that being said, let's start with this engine platform. It has the 3.6 Pentastar. It's a little bit long in the tooth, but, for what it is, I think it's a great engine. Yes, it does have the issue. It did have a lot of issues when it first came out. A lot of those have been sorted out, and now really the two big remaining issues are going to be the oil cooler and the oil filter cap. Can sometimes warp and cause leaks and stuff like that. You can replace those out with aluminum ones. Why Jeep hasn't done it? Well, clearly it's because money, right? That would cost them a lot of money. And if they did it to the new ones coming out, they might get a class action to try to do the old ones, and so they're just sticking with what they got. For the most part, if it works unless you get into the Mojave Desert and it's 200 degrees outside and you're running this thing to max. The next thing, the rocker and cam. So I know a lot of you are going to be like, hey, they're still doing it. Trail Recon, Brad, he just had his go down. Sure, yeah, that is true. There's about probably 2 or 3% of all of these on the road that will have suffer that issue, and some of them are at 30,000 miles, and some of them are at 300,000. Actually, by 300,000 miles, you're probably going to have that issue. But if you know what to look out for, you know what to listen for, it's a relatively inexpensive fix. But especially nowadays with all the engines that are coming out, if you don't buy an extended warranty, you don't shop around and find a good extended warranty like through Ally or Mopar, it's okay. I think that you're doing yourself a disservice. I used to not believe in extended warranties and all the extra crap dealers. I was like, pfft. But used to, engines didn't really have as many issues as they are now. Especially, I had a Hurricane engine. I had a Wagoneer, a 2023 Wagoneer, and it's been on the channel too. It had the Hurricane, great engine, but tons of problems. Just not just the engine, but also the whole electrical system and the computers, and they haven't got it sorted out. I think the Hurricane is going to be an awesome, great engine once they get all the kinks sorted out. But I think it's going to take them 3 to 5 years to get the kinks sorted out. So I also got rid of it as well. It was randomly. It does not like negative 30 temperatures. I'm up here in Fairbanks, Alaska, and I can tell you for a fact it does not like negative 30 temperatures. The computer goes nuts. It would randomly go into four-wheel drive low on its own without even going to neutral, and then get stuck there. I mean, it was doing some crazy stuff. So the engine is well documented, well known. There are millions of them out there, and for the most part, hey, look, you know what to listen for. The Pentastar tick, and you can stay on top of that and get it fixed. It's too easy. Horsepower and torque. Okay, so here's the thing. If you want a lot of horsepower and torque, I don't think a massive turboed engine is the way to go. If you plan on running it and pulling heavy loads and all that stuff, to hear me out though. So I have a Cummins, right? So that's an inline 6 turbo. It's a diesel. That thing is, but it's a heavy. It's built like a tank. Okay. When you come to these 4-cylinders with twin turbos, so in the midsize section, this is what I'm looking for, something in the midsize section for this kind of family-based travel. And I have some other vehicle platforms that I'm going to showcase as well, and that goes back to me saying there's not just one to rule them all. I like this because it is super simple. You start getting into these 4-cylinder twin turbo, 500 horsepower. That's just a lot of stress and strain on these engines. They're also making them light. They're built out of aluminum. I don't know. Time will tell. They're already having problems with the Hurricane. Toyota's already having problems with it with its engines. The Ford products are pretty good. I've grown away from Ford, and Ford is kind of, to me, is kind of like Toyota. When it comes to the interior, they seem dated to me. I don't know. Just things about Ford that I just don't like. And so I don't knock on Ford. If I wanted to get a Raptor, I almost considered getting a Raptor. I went and looked at one, or a Ranger Raptor, a Bronco Raptor, a regular Raptor. And I decided that just wasn't, it didn't make me happy when I sat in it. Whereas I am more of a, Jeep Ram kind of guy. I always kind of have been, even though I've owned all of them. 285 horsepower, 260 foot-pound of torque. For what I'm doing with this vehicle, that is plenty. I don't need this. I have a 1-ton diesel that can pull my fifth wheel, that can pull my toy hauler, my little trailer, aluminum trailer for snow machines, 4-wheelers and stuff like that, And I have a camper as well, a tongue pull camper, Taximantis Outdoors, So this can pull that, but that's not really the intent of this. The intent of this and this build, and this is going to be a build, it's going to be an overtime build because I want to start out, and there's a couple of ways you can go about this, but I want to start out with the bare necessities. I already have a capable vehicle, and right now, just looking at how it's sitting right here, coming from the factory, I've got lockers front and rear. I've got disconnecting sway bar. It's got a great traction control system. It's got great articulation. So I did go with the Rubicon X. It is a premium. You do pay for that premium. You can do it a lot cheaper and achieve the same goal. I did get this at a $15,000 discount because, with the way everything's going right now, Stellantis was hurting. the sales of these were hurting because, you know, this MSRP'd for $70,000. Is this worth $70,000? No, it's not worth $70,000. That's why I didn't pay $70,000. I probably would have went ahead and got a Rubicon and probably not the X one, because what you get for the X is basically the painted matched fenders and roof, and then, you know, leather, and then I've got the electric. It's got all the bells and whistles, but it's stuff that you don't really need. But because they were giving these away almost for a while, I went ahead and picked this up. So we've talked about the engine. I'm aware of the good and bad on that. We've talked about the transmission, which is the 8-speed. Actually, we haven't. Let's talk about that. The transmission is the 8-speed ZF transmission. It's a proven transmission. It's a great transmission. Wheels and tires. It comes with real Falcon Wild Peak AT3s. Now, I don't think they make the 3s. I think they got the 4 now. These are not OEM spec ones. These are real ones, and these are great tires it comes with. I'm going to stick with all terrains. I may go with KO2s. There's 2 tires I'm going to go with, either KO2 or the Falcon Wild Peak AT3s or 4s, whatever I can get my hands on. If I did want to go to an MT, I would go with the Perspective MTs, but I don't really need MTs. I don't think MTs suit my needs. Again, I'm up in the interior of Alaska. During the summer, you know, it is very muddy and stuff like that, and so MTs could be conducive, but really winter here is, you know, 8 months out of the year is winter, and these BFGs and these Falcon Wild Peaks, they actually do great in the snow and ice, so I don't have to buy a set of dedicated winter tires, you know. With that being said, this also comes with the auto four-wheel drive, the part-time four-wheel drive, and of course the low four-wheel drive setting. And so some of these only come with the part-time, two-wheel drive part-time, and low, but this one does have that extra one. So in the winter it's great because it turns it into an all-wheel drive vehicle, basically puts the power where it needs to. Up here in Fairbanks, you'll see a ton of Subarus because they're very good in wintry conditions up here. Their all-wheel drive system is dialed in and it's really good, you know. Same with this. I've had this for a while now. I bought it back in January, February timeframe, back when it was still really cold and we had, you know, 8 inches of ice covered everything. Even the roads were 8 inches of ice. You're driving on straight ice, and this handled perfect. It handled really, really well. You take something like, for example, our Ram 3500. It's got four-wheel drive, but it's nowhere as dialed in as this is with the auto four-wheel drive. Next thing, this comes with, because it is a Rubicon, it comes with rock rails, so it's something I don't have to worry about. It's already on the vehicle. So if I do get into a pickle, you know, I've got that protection. I've got skid plates. They're all metal skid plates. There's no plastic skid plates on this. The bumper is the metal. It's winch ready. I can take the wings off the bumper right here and have a better approach angle into stuff. I can take this plate off right here and throw a winch in here. All I need to do is add a winch plate. So it's all ready to go out of the box. The interior, so it is a little tight. That's the only downside about these Jeeps, especially if you're going to take multi-day trips. The interior is very small. You are kind of crammed in there. Now, I do have, like I said, a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. And my 18-year-old is doing their own thing, and my 15-year-old lives in North Carolina right now, so we only need room for 4 for the most part. We have the capability of going 5 with our other platforms, but this platform here, even though it seats 5, it really seats 4. It's just kind of tight in here, but it's got plenty of room because I've got a bed back here, and that's going to take me to the main reason why I wanted this platform, and that was because when you have a family and you're going out and you need to support yourself for multiple days, this bed makes all the difference in the world. You know, the Jeep Wrangler cannot compete for the space that this bed has. Now, there are a couple other options out there. Obviously, you have the Ranger, you have the Tacoma, and you have the Nissan pickup truck, the Frontier, I think, yes. Again, this does everything I need on the front side, and then the addition of this right here on the back side just makes it that much better. One of the biggest things about this is I wanted to keep it light, and I've got 2 Apaches flying over me right now, so I don't know if you can hear that. They love to fly over all day long. For those of you that don't know, I'm on Fort Wayne right here in Alaska. They're literally above me. And how many are we flying today? Looks like we got about 4 of them out there. And I'm retired military, and my wife's still active duty, so that's why I still live on a military installation. So I wanted to keep it relatively light. You know, I've got a buddy who put on an IU cab mod cap with, you know, and I've got other buddies that have put on the kitchen sink, right? So what are the biggest downfalls of a vehicle like this, whether it be a Power Wagon, a Ram Rebel, like a 1500, or a RHO, TRX, any of these off-road is going to be your payload suffers because of the off-road suspension. So this only has 990 pounds of payload. But that's doable, because what I'm going to do is, right now, the first mod that I did to this is I added airbags. So I added the Airlift 1000 airbags. There you go, you can see them right there. So that right there will allow me to put some extra weight back here, not have any sag, and be somewhat stable. And I did have it set up to where it's not two individual lines going, it is shared lines, so if I do articulate, air will move to the other bag, and that seems to work out the best. Super simple, super cheap. I think these were 120 bucks. They're great quality. I did have the Airlift 5000 system on my Ram 2500, and it worked out perfect. And so I went back with Airlift on these right here. The next thing that I needed was a way to protect what was in my bed. So the thought process on this was a couple different directions that I went. The first was I needed something that just provided shelter for the items I had in the back and could support items up top, whether that be a kayak, whether that be a cargo rack, whether that be a rooftop tent. I needed something that could support all those items depending on how I wanted to go build-wise. And what I decided to go with was the Wild Top. So Wild Top is out of Australia, and basically a lot of people are familiar with soft topper. It's a soft topper with an aluminum frame that can hold 770 pounds static and 220 pounds dynamic. So it'll hold most of your, if not all your rooftop tents. It'll hold your kayaks, canoes, whatever you need to throw up there, it can hold. And what I've decided, because I was also toying with the idea of going with a GFC, or, you know, I looked at AT Overland. I looked at basically all of the kind of heavier, kind of your Go Fast Camper style-esque toppers out there. And it just, the problem I ran into was weight. The Go Fast was the lightest, and it was the best option, and I almost pulled the trigger on that. However, at the end of the day, I wanted something that wasn't going to be specific to this vehicle. Because here's the problem I ran into. When I sold my Ram 2500, and I had the topper on it, the little wedge style pop topper on it, I couldn't sell it. Everyone that was interested had a long bed. It was extremely heavy, and no one had a place to store it, and it turned very cumbersome, and so I basically had to sell it with it on the truck. And so when I sold it, they weren't interested in it. They were like, okay, well, it's nice that it has it, you can keep it, because I don't want it. And so I was in Hawaii at the time, and I was like, well, I don't have anywhere to put it. So yeah, I just said, tell you what, you do what you want with it, it's yours. It was a $15,000 topper that I basically just gave away for free because I couldn't get rid of it. You know, and that's the problem you run into. So I said, you know what, this time around I want something that's going to be quality, that's going to hold and do what I want it to, but that's also going to be something that I can, even if I can't move it, I'm not losing a lot of money. Or if I do want to get rid of it or sell it, I can sell it at a price point that it's going to sell pretty easy and be something that wouldn't be super cumbersome for someone to deal with. So this right here is all aluminum, and it has a couple different options you can go with. So I went with the option of not having a window on the side and a window in the back. So I did order an extra one as well in case I had any problems, and it has no windows on it because I don't know how these windows are going to do in the winter. So I did get this right at the very beginning of summer. So it hasn't seen a negative 30 winter up here in Fairbanks, so we'll see how it fares. I think it's going to do okay. The canvas stuff here will do just fine in those conditions. It'll be, you know, crinkly, super hard. It's the windows that you run into problems. So basically you just unzip it here, and it's very simple. It's just a frame that let's see, let's do this again. Getting caught up on all kinds of bugs and plants here, but it's just a frame that you basically have a tarp put over. So along with the theme of this being super light, it's something I can get rid of, and not wanting to have a dedicated built-in rooftop tent style, wedge style camper, or even, again, like I was looking at the IU cab mod cap, where it can have the family mod on the side and sleep up to 5. Again, it's very specific to this vehicle. I have now ordered a very a bougie rooftop tent to go on the top, and that will be here next week. I'll do a separate video on that, just a quick video, because there are already a billion videos out about that product. And that obviously is the iCamper 3.0. I don't think there's any question when someone says they bought a bougie rooftop tent that was overpriced, that has been over-reviewed on the YouTube, you know you're talking about iCamper. So I went with the iCamper. It's 162 pounds. And so the wild top is, I think it's around 48 pounds, something like that. So combined, I have a total of, 200 pounds between the rooftop tent and this. Again, keep in mind, I've got 1,000 pounds of payload. Now with these airbags, I can push that a little bit and be safe and be okay. And with what else I'm planning in the future, probably we'll make things even more stable, and I'll be able to go even a little bit heavier. But with the iCamper, with this, and then this platform by itself, not putting anything else on it, you're already super capable. I mean, this is called the Rubicon because this can do the Rubicon Trail. It may not do it as very gracefully, but it can do it. I mean, there are videos out there. So this right here with the rooftop tent, taking a cooler or a fridge with a little battery back here, taking a little portable potty, a little portable shower system, all of which I have over the years of camping. You throw anything in the back, and then you're good to go. You don't need any crazy glamorous build, and you're only carrying about 350 pounds worth of camping overlanding stuff. You add in the occupants, and we're at max payload basically. Again, with these springs here, they're not the springs, but with the airbags, I can level out the load, and I don't feel it as much, and again, I'm more stable. These payloads are very conservative as is, so take that for what it is. I'm not going to get into that debate. There are people out there way over payload, running loads that are borderline unsafe, and they're doing it just fine every day. I still want to stay within certain safety constraints just for my family, but that's a personal choice. You do you. So anyway, there it is. This is the start of my family adventure rig and my family overlanding rig, whatever you would like to call it. And I think that this is going to work out great. I've already got, like I said, the tent is on here. I've got the springs on here. And I've just talked to a shop down in Anchorage about some future plans that are going to happen. So I don't know how far I'm going to go with this, but I'm going to start out with this right here. I'm going to see how it goes through the fall. When we get a couple of snows in, we should have some snows by October. We should probably, by October, by Halloween for sure, we're already going to be snowing. We can go out and do some winter camping and see how this goes, and then I'm going to kind of figure out what I want to do from there. If I want to do a lift, if I want to do tires, you got to be careful with that, because really with 410s, you can only run 35s in my opinion. You can get away with 37s, but you'll not be happy with it. So if I do a lift with 37s, now I got to re-gear, and you're running down the rabbit hole and the domino effect. So we're going to start out with this. Plus I want to run these tires out. These tires, I'm going to let them get their mileage in over the next year or so before I do anything crazy. So even if I do decide to put a lift on this, I'm still going to run these 33s. They're not 33, they're 32s. The 285 7017s, the Wild Peaks on here, until they have at least 30,000 miles on them, so for at least a year, if not maybe a little over. So it may look dumb, but it's about function. It's not about looks. I'm not trying to look cool. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. You want to tell me how dumb I am and how this is a horrible platform and this is the worst vehicle ever made and blah, 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 whatever. Go ahead and do it. Hey, it won't bother me. I'm just going to be like skip on down and keep on reading. Have a good day. I'm going to have some more content, obviously, on this to come in the near future. And I look forward to seeing you out on the trail. And we have a lot of Alaska adventures coming up. We just went down to Valdez on a fishing trip, on a halibut fishing trip. That was a lot of fun. I'm still editing that video right now. And I also have a couple of other vehicle platforms that I want to showcase and do some videos on as well. I do have another addition to the family for one of my funner platforms, I'll put it that way. And we'll hopefully have a video out in the next few weeks. You know, just kind of do this as I have time and have fun with it. So have fun yourself, get out there and enjoy life. So a lot of what I'm going to be doing is going to be, you know, simple improved gravel roads like this, but then you're going to get off the beaten path a bit and do some unimproved 2-track like this. So a lot of times, a lot of these trails I hit out, go out towards, you know, start out with nice little gravel roads like that, but then you run into the trails that go from a nice improved road to a 2-track to really, really tight and narrow to basically a quad, because there's a lot of side-by-sides and quads out here, and most people will drive out to a certain spot and then switch over to a quad from there, or they've grown over and so they just don't support a bigger vehicle. So when you have a wider vehicle, for example, you know, a full size, especially, you know, an HD like a 2500 or 3500, they'll fit, but you're gonna feel it. You know, you're gonna be very tight on these trails. Your chances for damage are gonna be a little higher, and it's just not gonna be as fun, you know, or as easy just to get out here without really thinking about, you know, what you're doing. So if you look right here, this is getting narrow and narrow, and then, you know, you're gonna get into some areas where it's gonna be getting muddier. And you may have a little articulation thrown in here, and that's the kind of situations that I'm going to be in for the extreme stuff without going and just looking for it, you know. The other big thing for me is obviously going to be snow depth, and that's where thinking about 37s and a lift is more something that I would consider versus going out and doing the Rubicon Trail. Having that ground clearance and that ability to get through, you know, heavy snowpack, you know, but it's also a double-edged sword, right? Because, you know, that can also get you into trouble, because you can get in over your head and get stuck, and then now you're, you know, buried in a place maybe you don't want to be. But I always carry satellite transponders and Starlink and all that happy stuff with me. So in terms of rescue, as long as I can stay warm and protect myself from bears and moose and you know, other things like bad people, I guess, then it's not going to be something that I just can't get out of. So that's the big thing, especially being in Alaska. You learn how to be prepared for all situations. So that's why, again, I picked this, because you have great sight lines. So, you know, you're sitting in here and you're looking and you want to see what you're coming up on in rocks and stuff like that. I don't think there's any other mid-size platform out there that has the same kind of sight lines that this one does. Also, with the new addition of the infotainment system here, you know, I've got right now Onyx maps open, and so you can see right here the Chena River is right there, and then, whoops, that's the wrong button. I didn't mean to hit that button. I meant to hit this button. So the Chena River is right there, and having a nice infotainment system with a big screen like this, you know, to where I can use my Onyx, which I'm not sponsored by Onyx. In fact, for a long time I didn't like Onyx. I thought they were too expensive for what you got. But I've since kind of started using Onyx, because as far as the experience go here in the vehicle, I can quickly mark a waypoint, versus if you go to something like Gaia, you can see how, you know, you can't mark a waypoint. Sometimes it gets real sticky and it doesn't work right. And I've just found, funny enough, that Onyx is kind of the system that I like better for use in the vehicle. It doesn't have as many maps options as Gaia does, but I think I'm going to switch away from Gaia, as a lot of people are, just because, you know, Onyx is just simpler. You know, sometimes less is more.